Right. Hello, guys. Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be trying something new. As you'll see in the coming weeks, I will be re-uploading some old content that I had, mainly being a podcast I tried starting back in the day. Wasn't very successful, unfortunately, but unfortunately, podcasting is a hard thing to do for communities because very few people I feel like listen to those anymore nowadays. But for those that do enjoy that, I will be uploading them to YouTube, and I will also be putting the link for the podcast on Spotify in the link as well. So if you want to go check it out on Spotify, you can. But today I'm going to kind of try to tap back into that. And so today's episode will be uh, me kind of just going over my reviews and thoughts and opinions for K-pop Demon Hunters, the hit Netflix streaming original that just won 2 Oscars, um, and as well as what I liked, what I didn't like, what I think they should do for the sequel, um, and all of that. So if this is something you're interested in, thank you for clicking this and listening along. So let's just go ahead and get started. Um, as of recording this, there is no name for this podcast yet. I don't know if I will brand it as a continuation of Let's All Go to the Movies, or if I will just have this just as its own separate thing. I'm still figuring that out. But today, we will just be talking about K-pop Demon Hunters. This is a movie that I heard a lot about, uh, and it quickly blew up on social media. Everyone loved it. It outperformed so much that it was Netflix's biggest streaming hit in the history of streaming. Like, it was that big when it came out. Um, so it didn't really surprise me that everyone liked it. And I heard that it was getting a theatrical release, that it was going to be showing in theaters, because of how well it did, and um, Sony wanted to try to make some money off of that, as well as Netflix seeing how big of a hit it was. This was something that didn't look like it would appeal to me at the time, so I had no interest in watching this. But recently I had gotten a free trial for Netflix, so I have sat down and watched a myriad of Netflix originals that I have been waiting to watch till I got Netflix again, being uh, Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein, which also won a few Oscars a couple days ago, um, Wake Up Dead Man, the newest Glass Onion film, as well as the sequel to the original one, which I guess is a prequel to Wake Up Dead Man, which is Glass Onion, which I really loved. Glass Onion. I think that was the best of the trilogy so far. I really love what Rian Johnson and Daniel Craig do in those movies. And then I also watched Hotel Mumbai. That was streaming on Netflix. So I watched that a couple days ago. That was pretty good. Um, I watched Only the Brave, and that was really good. Um, and then I also watched Extraction 1 and 2 with Chris Hemsworth. Um, the first one was a pretty solid movie. I really wish that they didn't do the sequel because it kind of feels unnecessary. I feel like just the first one as is was a good one-off story. Um, and that I don't think two really added much to the whole thing. Um, but they're still pretty good movies. Those were done by Agbo Studios, which, if you don't know, I believe is the company that the Russo brothers created. They're the ones that are working on Doomsday right now. Um, Agbo Studios. And they did really good. I mean, I really enjoyed some of the films that Agbo did. They're doing Doomsday now. They did 21 Bridges with Chadwick Boseman, and then they also did Everything Everywhere All at Once with Michelle Yeoh, and that was also another really good movie. But yeah, so that's pretty much just what I've been doing is catching up on Netflix originals. And I knew how big K-pop was to certain fans, but like I said, never really appealed to me. So after I watched everything, I got kind of bored. So I'm like, I'll go ahead and watch this, see if it's good, see why people are enjoying it so much. And I was surprised. One, because of how long it took me to get into it, but also because I was able to get into it. Because, like I said, this is more of like a kids' movie that I didn't think I would be able to get into. But after about the first 30 minutes of the movie, which I think is like right after the Soda Pop song by the Soulja Boys in the movie, after that point, as soon as it was just serious and the emotion had set in, it was very easy to follow, very realistic, as far as the emotion and everything they did in this. And I just really connected with me, and it was really good. Um, and not just the writing in the movie, but the voice acting that they did was great. Conveying the emotions with the voice and the animation as well. The animation was spot on. I do have a couple nitpicks about the animation that I'll talk about later in this episode. Um, but it was just a really good movie, and I've watched it, I want to say about 20 times. And I've not rewatched a movie like that since I was maybe 8, when I rewatched like Disney movies like Fantasia, Black Cauldron, the Disney live action Mario movie that everyone hates. So to be able to get into a movie that I didn't think I'd like, and not only did I like it, but I've rewatched it so many times, is I feel like a testimony to how great this movie is. Um, and I think that's just something that other territories or states or continents have better than us as far as movies in general, is that they can convey emotions and tell stories, I think, a lot better than us here in the US can. And I'll use Minus One as an example. I hate the US Godzilla films. I think they're way too overdone. There's way too much action, and it's all stylized action towards the monsters. And it makes you care more about the monsters since it's the biggest IP in that universe than the characters. But in Minus One, it completely flips the script. And it makes you care about the characters, and it portrays Godzilla as a bad guy, which is something completely different that I don't think they've done in Godzilla before. I'm not real sure because I'm not watched any of the other Toho films because, like I said, I'm not a Godzilla fan. But what they did with Minus One was spectacular. The music was amazing. The story and the acting was amazing. The cinematography and the visual effects were amazing, especially that atomic breath sequence when Godzilla levels the city in that one sequence, which I believe is what gave the film an Oscar, because it won an Oscar as well or an Academy Award in 2023 for Best Visual Effects, which is the only Godzilla movie, I might add, to ever win an award, which I think proves that Godzilla Minus One and hopefully Minus Zero are proving is that we don't need big over the top action. We need, better stories people can get involved with, make them care for the characters. And I really hope that they knock it out of the park with Minus Zero. Minus Zero comes out, I believe it said November of this year, and will be released through G Kids and Toho Studios, and will be a direct continuation of Minus Zero. But that's something I think other people do better, because Minus One is done in Japan. K-pop Demon Hunters is based around the Korean culture, which is pretty obvious if you know what K-pop is. It's Korean pop. So like people like Baby Metal or EJ, are Korean pop artists. And then there's another Korean drama or K-drama that I watched that it's also a Netflix original called Even If This Love Ends Tonight, which is a reboot of the film Even If This Love Disappears from the World Tonight, which is based off of a book of the same title. And I believe the original movie was Japanese, but this reboot that came out on February on Netflix was really effing good. I mean, the drama and the emotion and the story behind it was so good. Um, and it was just so beautifully done. I've watched it 3 times and I still cry that last half hour of the movie because it's just so raw, the emotion that it pulls this film. And I've never really cried to many films. I think if you've read my post on YouTube recently, I cried for Rental Family because that is also done representing Japanese culture and by Japanese artists and filmmakers and everything. And it was just so, well done. But I've never cried to a movie aside from Rental Family and Even If the Love Disappears Tonight since I was probably like 12. So being able to have those emotions during the film again makes it more realistic and really enhances the experience you have as a movie watcher and a cinephile when you're sitting down and watching those films. And it just makes it so much better having that emotion. I almost cried during the scene when Genu sacrifices himself in K-pop because the emotion was there. It was so realistic and very beautifully done and executed. And props to the team that worked on K-pop Demon Hunters. I will go ahead and say that one, unfortunately, the industry is not for everyone, and it is not grateful to everyone. And I think what we've seen recently at the Oscars proves that. With the artist's acceptance speech getting cut short for a commercial break, while they were accepting the award for best song, for K-pop Demon Hunters, obviously being Golden. And I mean, it's just a shame that things like that happen. I mean, God, it was what, 4 years ago or so, we had the whole Will Smith bitch slapping Chris Rock or something at the Oscars or the Golden Globes, whatever award show that was. And it's just all this drama. It's just ridiculous. And if you're really going to do that, I mean, especially to very talented and well-deserved people like the crew that worked on K-pop Demon Hunters, it's just, I'll say this, that it is retarded and very uncalled for. I'm sorry to the crew that happened. It's very unfortunate that that is still happening nowadays. Especially with all the whole immigration stuff going on, with ICE and everything. And I'm just gonna leave it at that. I don't want to try to get too political in this. If you guys want to hear my rants and raves about the whole Trump thing, let me know in the comments, and then I will maybe post something about that. But other than that, we'll just stick straight to movies. So jumping from there, I'll go ahead and say what I didn't like about this movie, which is that it took me a little bit too long to get into this. Like I said, it took me about a half hour to get into this movie, which is more than I wanted. And it was off and on. It wasn't like the whole 30 minutes I couldn't get into it. It was off and on in some things. And I went into this with the mindset that, this is a Korean film. It does explore Korean culture and Korean themes. So expect, it to be a little out there maybe for me, since I'm not familiar with their culture, what they do, how it's done. And I went in with that mindset, which I think is why I stuck around as much as I did. Because if I didn't have that mindset and it took so long for me to get into it, I probably would not have stayed to watch the rest of the movie. But that being said, there were some things that I didn't enjoy in the first 30 minutes. First of all, being the opening sequence on the plane. Um, I do think it is crucial. I think all of these scenes that I didn't like are crucial. It's just I think the way they kind of executed it, maybe, or the way that I interpreted it, I should say. Because I'm more than certain that it works as is and that everyone's happy with it. It's just for me, my logic and understanding, I couldn't get into it. And that's just because that's who I am. But the plane sequence I think is fine and could have stayed. The only thing I would change is I wasn't a fan of how we got to the plane sequence, like them actually singing and fighting the demons on the plane. The burping I thought was unattractive. The them forcing down all the food the way they did with the certain animation styles, which I've seen some inappropriate memes of already. I didn't really care for that. Um, and the way that the demons were talking to them in that conversation, before they were interrupted by the girls burping and stuff, to trying to say that, we're gonna eat your fans or kill your fans. Um, and I think maybe that could have been handled a little better. That's just kind of me being a little nitpicky about that scene. Otherwise, the plane sequence is fine, and is very much needed to carry that beginning scene, because it is from the plane sequence that they then go to their first concert, and then the rest of the movie kind of follows from there. Um, the other thing I didn't like was, after the concert sequence, they try to take a little break, and then Rumi uploads the song Golden. And then it's during them getting ready to promote Golden, or them currently promoting Golden, because they did have an interview in this sequence, that we find out that Rumi has the patterns and that she's part demon. And that is where the emotion and the story starts setting in. And I'm like, okay, this is good. We're starting to get somewhere. We have, a bit of backstory, and a bit of trauma for this character, and some emotion coming in, and that should be good. It should carry the movie from here. And then they went to Dr. Han, which is something I didn't personally care for, but was very kind of needed, in the sense that when he says, in order to take a look at the part, we have to understand the whole. Because when he says it the second time, he does the circle motion with his hands around the girls, all three of them, meaning that they all need to unload their burdens with each other and trust each other in order to be able to get past anything, which does eventually end up happening. But I think the way they did the sequence just didn't sit right with me specifically, which again is just me being maybe a little nitpicky about it. But it was very much needed to try to get that point across, that yes, she's not telling everything to her friends. If she unloads her burden and trusts them, then things will get better. Maybe it depends on how it plays out. Because like at the end of the film, when when Mira and Zoe find out that she has patterns and she's been hiding it, they kind of reject her, because she hid it for so long and they couldn't trust her, and they kind of viewed her as a demon herself. I think if they did do it earlier, which would kind of change how the film was done, but if Rumi told her friends earlier, and then kind of explained that it was Celine that kind of did all of this, I think maybe things would have gotten a little better. Maybe not for Celine. I mean, I think they would be pretty pissed at that character, but I think it would have been handled a lot better as far as their group dynamic as a K-pop band, or trio. And so then after the Dr. Han sequence, was them meeting the Soulja Boys for the first time in the alley. again, a scene was needed because it needs to establish who those characters are, and I think them find the Huntrix finding them attractive kind of adds an extra layer to it because it's like, oh, they're so cute. How are we going to be able to defeat them when we have these feelings for them? Which is part of why I think the Rumi and Ginu thing worked so well, is because she started questioning, what is she doing? Is this really what we need to be doing? Which I think could possibly set up things for a sequel, possibly, which I'll get into in a little bit. However, the animation style they did, I thought, was maybe taking it a bit too far. I understand the whole popcorn eyes. I thought that was cute and funny. Them eating the popcorn, I thought, was maybe a bit too much, and I definitely agreed with Rumi after watching that. That was a bit gross. But again, kind of a needed scene in order to get that point across. And then after the whole Soda Pop song, which it's not how they did the scene, it's just the song itself didn't really resonate with me. Maybe just because the lyrics are part English, part Korean. But I mean, just the poppy tunes and boyish band tunes and stuff in the background. I'm not a huge fan of like those big pop boy band songs. Like occasionally I'll listen to One Direction, but it's not very pop-ish. The ones I listen to, it's like the more slow, romantic, emotional ones, like You and I. But that's kind of why I didn't like that sequence. But then after that sequence, when they do like the game show and then they start fighting each other in the men's bathhouse, and Ginu finds out Rumi's secret, that's kind of when I started getting more into it and more open to what was going to happen next, and what really made me stick around for the rest of the movie. I thought it was extremely well done, and I really enjoyed this movie. Including the soundtrack. I mean, I'm not a fan of Soda Pop, and Golden, after so many rewatches and radio plays, gets very old very quick, but it's still a fairly decent song. For those wondering, in my opinion, the best songs that I like from the movie is Free, which I currently have in my playlist for When the World Burns. And then Free was really good. I really liked This Is What It Feels Like, or What It Feels Like, I believe is just what it's called. I like the demo version a little better just for the one line, which I think adds a lot more depth and emotion to the song, which I did do a sort of tooling around re-edit of that on my YouTube channel as well, if you want to check that out. Because the only version I found initially of the full demo had a little bit of distorted audio, and it was part of an interview, so there was a guy talking during parts of it. So I tried mixing the original movie audio with that one line, and then just combining that to kind of remake that demo. Was sort of my thought process behind that, just so I could finally hear the demo in a better quality, in the majority of its entirety. If I missed a sequence, I apologize in trying to redo that. But towards the end of the song, when it's when the trio comes in and everyone is singing, it kind of gets a little loud and a little distorted, just based on the recording that had been released from that interview. So even if I tried to add it in, it would get very distorted, very hard to understand. And that's partially why I didn't include it, but also because it didn't sound like anything new, like that one line that we had gotten. But What It Feels Like was really good. I really like the Your Idol song that the Soulja Boys did. Especially the dance routine they did for the movie. I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, the extended full version of that song that was included on the soundtrack, I really enjoy that. But yeah, so it was pretty solid movie. I'm gonna give it about an 8 out of 10. And then like I said, it did win 2 Oscars the other day. One for best animated film, and then the other one for best original song, which is for Golden, which they performed, I believe, at the Oscars. And yeah, I mean, it definitely deserves it. It was definitely well done. Has all the love from the fans, which is nice, especially for Korean artists. It lets them know that they're doing something right, that people love and resonate what they're doing, and that they want to get to know more about the culture and everything that goes into the story because of how interesting and how nice and how amazing it was. So jumping in from there, let's go ahead and talk about the sequel, which has been officially confirmed. I am skeptical about what they're going to do with this because it says that Netflix is still doing this with Sony. Because I believe it was Sony that released the statement through Variety or another news article that they were going to go ahead and greenlight the sequel, which is kind of obvious. I mean, with as well as it performed and as well as it did, and the fact that it just won 2 Oscars, I think Netflix would be kind of stupid to not greenlight a sequel, especially because they want to try to make as much money out of this as they can. That's just how companies are, unfortunately. I only hope that they actually do the sequel justice, and that's not just another crappy sequel like some Disney sequels are, like the direct-to-video ones they did back in the day. And that, they're trying real hard with this. They're giving it their all, which I would assume they would, because like I said, Sony Animation is the one that did this film in the first place, and Sony Animation is fairly good on their movies. Open Season was good. Trying to think of other Sony films. Surf's Up, the first one was good. Didn't really care for the second one, but that's just because they did the whole wrestling thing with it. The only movie I didn't really like was Emoji Movie. I think is the only thing I didn't really like from Sony. Clyde with a Chance of Meatballs. That's the other one. That was really good. I really enjoyed the sequel for that one. So hopefully they'll do a story that's good. To help build upon the lure and characters and stuff from the first film. Hopefully they will straight release this in theaters, knowing how well the first one did, so they can try to get some money off of it and promote it better than they did the first one. Because I think I only ever saw maybe 2 trailers for the first one before it came out, and then I heard about it more after it came out because everyone loved it. So I think if they promote it more before it comes out to let more people know, hey, this is actually happening, you should get tickets for this, maybe it'll be marketed better, and it'll sell more and do well. And hopefully they give the sequel a physical release as well. The first one was just recently confirmed to have gotten or is getting, I think it said the 31st of December is when it comes out on Amazon. But K-pop is getting a DVD Blu-ray release. I am surprised it's not through Sony themselves. I would think they would want to do it themselves, since it's, 1, their property, and 2, a film they know did really well. But it is being released through the Criterion Collection. Same with Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein. Why? I don't know. Frankenstein, I think, makes more sense in the Criterion Collection, because it was another really good film that also won Oscars and was critically acclaimed, and did really well, had a lot of great acting, great visuals, and it's another kind of film that you would expect from the Criterion Closet collection. K-pop, I don't want to insult the creators by saying this, but I don't think it belongs in the Criterion Collection. I feel the Criterion Collection is something for very specific films that have maybe like a cult following that maybe didn't do well, but people really love. And it also helps shine light on other filmmakers from across the world. Like, I have one movie in my DVD collection right now from the Criterion closet called The Lure, which is a horror musical version of Hans Christian Andersen's Little Mermaid. And it is a Polish film. A really, really good one, I might add. I don't really like musicals, and for a horror film, you wouldn't think it would work. It actually works pretty well for the Little Mermaid horror take that they do for The Lure. It is very much an adult film, so any kids listening, do not check this out. But it is a really good movie. Another film that got released through the Criterion Collection that I plan on buying eventually is Come and See, which is a German film. A lot of people might know this because when 28 years later came out, they did the infamous Rudyard Kipling reading of Boots for the trailer. And there was someone I saw on YouTube who did a fan edit of Come and See to that reading of Boots, which I think adds another layer of violence and emotion and horror to that film because of how the film is. But it was a really good movie. I think it was free on YouTube a couple months ago. I don't know if it still is. But I checked it out, and it is a really good movie. But that's kind of what I view the Criterion Collection as a place for independent artists and filmmakers to have their stuff released so that other people can get a chance to watch it. So to hear that K-Pop Demon Hunters was going to be released through them, I was kind of shocked that they would do that. Again, not because it's not a good movie, just because that's not what I think the Criterion Collection is. But, I mean, either way, I think me and other fans are just happy that it is actually getting a release, period. I've seen some fans concerned about how much the price will be, because I do think the Criterion Collection usually runs around $30 to $40 for a Blu-ray, which is a little bit much, but Criterion is very much its own independent company that releases titles you can't get anywhere else. So they, and with disc distribution and stuff, not really something a whole lot of people like to do since everything is digital now and all that crap. It does make more sense, so they'd want to charge a little bit more for that just so they can pay to be able to make more discs and stuff in the future. But I do think it is a bit pricey. Especially for me who loves owning physical copies of movies, but is like dirt poor. So maybe around $20. I think $20 is still a bit too much for me for movies. I wouldn't pay more than like $15 for a new release. But that's just because I have money issues. Unfortunately, that's usually how it rolls. But yeah, so it is getting a physical release. Jumping back to the sequel, I apologize for derailing the topics. I really hope that they really do a good story as far as emotion and plot, and that it kind of carries over from the first one. Some thoughts that I had, which is at this point fan speculation and wishing, but I think that based on what they established in the first film, maybe make Celine the bad guy and have her maybe go after Huntrix, since they've now accepted Rumi for what she is, and for destroying and then completely redoing the Hun Moon, and destroying what Celine and everyone else had kind of done from the past, and maybe give her character more depth. because she wasn't necessarily a saint in the movie. She was telling Rumi, no one's going to accept you. You need to cover up and hide and all this stuff. Kind of like what I believe Elsa did in Frozen. She was just trying to hide it from everyone, conceal it, and nothing would happen. And then she almost killed everyone by freezing Arendelle. So I do think maybe there is a chance that Selene could be a possible antagonist for the sequel if they do it well, and maybe eventually have her with Guima, since she is trying to destroy what Huntrix did and reinstate the Hun Moon, to get rid of all demons. I think maybe their paths would cross a little bit. I wouldn't say that they would full on work together or work for each other, but if their paths kind of cross, since she'd be going after Huntrix, and that would mean that, well, if the Hun Moon is destroyed, Guima would come back, then maybe that would kind of make them cross paths. Something else that I'm interested in is I doubt they'd do it unless they could find a way to make it work, but I would really love to see Jinnu return and end up with Rumi again. Which, yes, I know some people think it's weird and gross because Jinnu is 400 years old. That was, I think, stated twice in the first film. But when if they do it a certain way and they're like, oh, well, when the patterns, consumed me and I became part of Guima's, control, I was pulled into that realm, and maybe that like stops his aging. Like it was like outside of time, maybe, since it was a different dimension or different realm, which would explain his young looks, because he still looks fairly young. And would maybe give them a chance to be together. That wouldn't completely gross fans out of their age gap. But that's just wishful thinking. I thought they made a cute couple. I'd like to see him return. I don't know as if they will, though. And then something else I was thinking, which would kind of go again more with the plot of Selene being the bad guy, is have the movie take place after the events of the first film. So, Huntrix is, in the middle of their comeback tour. They're in the middle of touring, or they're getting done with touring, however they want to do that. And it would kind of start off the same way the first one did, them doing the tour and the concert and everything. Of course, it'd be different because there's really no demons at this point right now that we're aware of. So it would be essentially the same. It would just feel a little different because there's not that extra added element to it. And maybe they would have like a hard time getting used to it. And then something would come along and they would maybe question where Rumi came from, like who her dad was and all this, want to dig more into their her past. So they would want to go to Selene, and then after Selene finds out, that, she's accepted who she is and she's trying to dig into her past and find out all this stuff, she wants to try to hide it from her, since it's not something she feels she needs to know, since her dad was a demon, and wants to try to avoid her from finding him. And so I think the movie should go back and sort of show us a little bit of what Rumi's mom and dad kind of did back then, like how they met. Maybe include a couple songs from the Sunlight Sisters. Give us some newer songs to incorporate in the film, maybe a song or two. And then kind of explain that backstory. And then maybe after Rumi finds out about her past and accepts who she is and where she came from, maybe do a revamp of a Sunlight Sister song that her mom did that sort of conveys the emotion that she's going through and how she feels that goes along with the story as well. Um, and that's just kind of what I'm thinking. It'd be interesting to see if they do more songs from Huntrix because, I mean, one, they would kind of have to because, I mean, they're a K-pop band. They're going to release a song or two, throughout the film. That's what they do. They do songs. But something I noticed in the first movie is in their living room there is a wall by the door that has like a whole bunch of plaques of like golden records, and I don't know if that's maybe songs that the other hunters have done in the past as well as what Huntrix has done, or if those are all Huntrix's songs specifically, and how it's done was not their first. It was just the first one for that film. This would be interesting to see if they go back and release those older songs, if they are in fact Huntrix's. And then that would add more layers and story and depth to the universe as well, because it's not just those few songs. There's more songs they released before that, before they had gotten into their fame and stuff. Because not a whole lot of artists start out with bangers or hits or really good songs. Imagine Dragons is one of the few exceptions. Their first album, Night Visions, was really, really well done. I enjoyed every song on that album. But that's just one of the few artists that I know of off the top of my head that have had a good start from the beginning. But maybe that would be a chance to go back and explain everything, by showing, where they were before the first film and, how they got to where they're at. And that's pretty much just my thoughts on what they could do. Like I said, hopefully they will give this movie a lot of thought and emotion, which I'm sure they will. I'm not saying that they're careless and they're not going to, but depending on how it's done, no pun intended, that it'll be another great film. Because it seems like sequels is just something that there's so much of now, and there's not a whole lot of original ideas. Mainly the case with Disney. Disney's done a lot of reboots and sequels instead of original IP, which I think is why they've struggled so much. But I mean, it's not just them either. I mean, there's some stinkers for other companies as well. Like, I couldn't get into Trolls World Tour. I liked the first one, could not get into World Tour. Jurassic Park, Dominion was a massive failure. I think everyone can agree on that now. I think that's part of the reason why I'm not even seeing Rebirth, is because that last movie was just not at all what it should have been, and I think it kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. So I've not even seen the new one yet. If I'm correct in assuming, I believe it's supposed to retcon that movie, because in the trailer I thought I saw Scarlett Johansson's character walking around in the Lockwood Mansion, which was shown in Fallen Kingdom, and it's maybe taking place after the events of Fallen Kingdom, when all the dinosaurs are roaming free, and this is the team that went to retrieve the DNA and stuff from those specimens, maybe during the events of Dominion, or when Dominion happened, because it's supposed to completely erase that from the face of the earth. I don't know. That's what I think it was supposed to be. But like I said, I didn't care for Dominion, so I don't know if I'm going to watch anything else. I hear it did okay. I hear there were a couple people that were bummed out on some things they did in the film. But personally, I think I'm done with that franchise, and that's just another example of a sequel that didn't do well. I think the same with Rise of Skywalker. I saw Rise of Skywalker opening day in theaters. Could not have been more pissed off at a film than I was at Rise of Skywalker. I thought it was cool they brought Palpatine back, but I'm like, well, one, how? And two, the whole thing with Rey being Palpatine's granddaughter, I thought was completely out of left field. And then having her be the next Skywalker and taking that name was completely unearned. And she did not deserve that throughout the trilogy that she was in. Um, and it was just not a great movie. Especially since it was supposed to be the end of the entire Skywalker saga. It was supposed to mark the end of a saga and a legacy, and it completely dropped the ball on that shit. Um, but yeah, it was just a disaster, that movie. Um, but yeah, so like I said, hopefully they will kind of do a better story, expand on the world, and it'll be a sequel that everyone can get behind and enjoy. Um, I appreciate you guys listening to me rambling on about this stuff. If you have any thoughts or opinions or fan theories about what you want the sequel to be, let me know in the comments. And that, I believe, will wrap up this episode. Also, let me know if you want shorter episodes in the future. I try not to go too long. I try to keep things about a half hour or 20 minutes at most. But I do like to ramble on about this stuff a lot. So, if that's not for you, maybe let me know. If you'd like longer content, let me know. That way I can get kind of your feedback on how you want this to continue. And that being said, even though, I might do more here and there, don't expect constant episodes or updates or uploads. I'm very busy. I mean, I got a job, and that doesn't really do a whole lot for me financially or mentally. And a lot of stuff that I got to try to work on as well. I'm working on a book. If you follow me on DeviantArt, I am currently working on a book. The preview is currently up for members only. If you want to go check that out, help support me there with the exclusive content. Not only is it the book preview right now, there's also exclusive custom-made DVD covers for those if you want them. If that's something you're interested in, definitely check those out. I put a lot of hard work into those. But yeah, if that's something that interests you, the membership tier is just $1, so it's not even that much. If you want to go check it out, I would really appreciate it. Let me know that I'm going in the right place with what I'm doing, and definitely will help me out as well. But like I said, that is about it. So I will go ahead and end this episode there. I will see you guys next time.